Welcome to Tuesdays with Tom, a Procurious podcast series featuring exclusive insights from Tom Derry, CEO of the Institute for Suppliers Management. The topic of today's podcast is Time to Jump. Procurious founder Tanya Seary will discuss with Tom the presence of psychopathic managers in the procurement profession, why members of Generation Next want to change jobs so frequently, and what can be done to retain top talent in your organization. Over to you, Tanya and Tom.
Are you an ambitious professional who's working out whether you should stay within your organisation or make the jump to greener pastures? Or are you a CPO who's really concerned about holding on to your hottest talent? Either way, hopefully today, Tom Derry from ISM will give you some insights to help you navigate this very tricky journey. But before I put you under pressure, Tom, I thought I would share something about a really popular blog that we've had on Procurious recently. The title was How to Tell That You're Working for a Psychopath. And I don't know if this says something about our profession, but it seems to have resonated with a lot of people. We've already had over 2,500 views on that topic. So, do you think we've got a lot of psychopaths out there in the profession?
I have to share an anecdote with you on that point. It's amusing, and I think it also kind of establishes a baseline. A couple of years back, an academic researcher, a professor, came to me and wanted to survey the ISM membership, and was looking to build a psychological profile of people who go into this work. And I never did see the academic study, but in a local newspaper, someone pointed out to me the local press coverage of this academic's work, and the headline was, "A majority of procurement professionals are psychopaths." And I said, we can't let that be published.
I remember that.
But, I think that, first of all, that was then, right? That was a few years ago now, which is great. And I think in those days, there was an expectation that your job was to sit across the negotiating table from your supplier and have zero empathy with that person and demand cost reductions and extract the pound of flesh. And, sure, I can see those would be, psychopathic kinds of tendencies or profiles. But you're never going to succeed in supply management with those kinds of. The emphasis on supplier relationship management in particular is so critical that profile is not going to be successful in the profession of today.
Oh, that's so funny. And I've just seen something here. Hugo Britt, the lovely Dr. Hugo Britt, who's helping us produce these podcasts, has just sent me a photo of actually that story, which says, someone commented on it saying, "Here I am enjoying my morning cup of supplier's blood." Oh, dear. Well, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who resonate with that. But, I guess if we start to talk about this a little bit, I think we've done surveys, our Gen Next survey last year. It's well documented that a lot of Generation Next are looking to leave their organisations within the next 5 years. So, is it unrealistic for employers to think that employees will stay for more than 5 years anywhere?
Not at all. I think it's realistic for them to expect longer tenure, but there are a few key things that matter in order to get that longer tenure with your organization. One is training on the job. People really value skill acquisition, and they want it. They value it more than what they're paid, actually. They value challenging and new assignments. So giving a person a chance to grow by tackling a new project or something outside of his or her area is really important. Giving them exposure to other organizations, even a formal rotation program, which I know lots and lots of companies have implemented in the last few years. So you're rotating in procurement and into other elements of the business, and then coming back with a complete understanding. Those things make a massive difference in developing and keeping your best talent.
Absolutely. And, that's very practical advice. And I guess particularly if you're not a psychopath and you're a really, high-performing head of procurement or supply chain who's really delighted with their team, have you got some tips for how you retain them? I think the rotation is a great tip.
Yeah. And I also think that not to be too defensive about talent. I mean, it's a wonderful thing for a leader and a manager to be known as a developer, a discoverer and developer of great talent, which inevitably means that some people are going to move on, but that's attractive. I mean, if I'm a person looking for a place to work and I know that, my boss has got a reputation for identifying and developing people who go on to great new opportunities, I'm going to want to work there. So I think what we need to focus on as a manager is, as long as my pipeline for refreshing talent is wider, right, and I've got more volume coming in, then I might have some leakage at the top, then I'm fine. And I'm actually I'm developing a reputation that actually is going to work to my advantage.
No, it definitely sounds great. And what about practical day-to-day tips? Is the old catch-up still working? Career path planning, all those sort of relatively old-fashioned tools, are they still relevant today?
Well, I think there's an update in one area that's important. So we have the ISM mastery model, which is a competency model for all levels within the profession. And so the check-ins, I would say the new version of it, the old-fashioned check-in, is sitting down, employee and supervisor, and having an open conversation about, hey, what are my development opportunities to make me ready for that next promotion or to land that great assignment, and having an honest conversation around, these three competencies around business acumen and around cost and price management and around, I don't know, think of a third one, are really critical. And you know what? We can work on business acumen in your case. The employee appreciates that because now I have a vested interest in his or her development and their growth, and we can point to development opportunities that are low cost or no cost that enhance my skill. I feel like my boss has taken a vested interest in me, and that means an awful lot. Now, as the supervisor, you're also getting someone who's a more valuable employee. So that use of a competency model, I think, is a game changer, and it works in both directions in that conversation. The other one is, and I do this at ISM, our office, all the time. You can't overvalue how important it is to walk around and just talk to people. Hey, what are you working on? Taking an active interest in what they're doing. I learned, for instance, in talking to a web developer in our company yesterday, that we're building an AI engine into our new content management system, the technology that supports our website. That means we're going to be able to personalize content for anybody who comes to the ISM website and serve it up according to your interests. And it'll be happening through artificial intelligence that's built into the platform. I won't need people trying to determine which characteristics Siri is interested in, because I'll know from her behavior on the website. That guy is really happy to know that I know what he's working on, and that I found that pretty exciting and interesting. And that means a hell of a lot to anybody. When the leader or a leader comes around and says, "Oh, that's what you're working on? That's really interesting," and I can see how that's going to drive results for the company.
And it has so much more meaning for you as well to see the project, to hear the passion, understand how committed people are to the project. I think that is, even though I'm a huge proponent of sort of social media and sharing, there is nothing that can replace that face-to-face understanding. It's really important.
Yeah.
And, one of our, actually, CPO of the Year in Australia actually has a pedometer. A lot of people do, but he actually tracks how much he walks around the office. And, I think that's a good KPI for people is, how much time
That's a great KPI. Love that.
Yeah. So that's a little nugget for anyone listening. We talk about CPOs as talent magnets. So you and I talk about that a lot. But, I guess if you are someone who wants to hold on to their talent, do you have any tips about, how you can do that, retaining the hottest people in your team?
I mean, as a leader, you have to be constantly aware of what's the profile of my team. What's the external reputation of my team, and I mean that external within the company, so the other areas of the business, but also broadly in my industry or even among my peers in other industries. Because if you're seen as someone who's a likable person and developing good talent, but the organization is standing still, you're at risk of losing people because they're gonna find that unattractive. They're gonna feel like they're not marketable, frankly, when the time comes for them to be looking in the market. So you need to be forward looking as a leader and creating an environment that's always compelling and interesting. And I say, frankly, the best CPOs that I know aren't ones who are focused on trying to make more efficient an existing process in the legacy business. They're actually focused on where is the business headed in the next 3 to 5 years, and what kind of a team do I need to build to optimize the business that we're going to become. So if you're looking backwards and focused on efficiency, you're missing the point. You got to be thinking about the future of the business and where do I need to take my procurement team in order to deliver that future vision, and that's what's going to make you an attractive leader to any talent.
Well, we might leave it on that very vital piece of advice from yourself for today. And once again, thank you everyone for listening, and we really hope that you've gained a lot out of today's podcast.
Thank you for listening to our Tuesdays with Tom podcast, powered by Procurious and ISM. Stay tuned for more podcasts in this series, which will be made available for streaming in the learning area on procurious.com.